Welcome to the BlackWolf Show, a new series of author interviews where we would interview the most promising authors. Hi, I'm BlackWolf, your host and the author of Reversed Order Existence. In this 6th episode, we would introduce you to the Black Wolf, the author of The Struggle for Identity. What struggles did you face in the journey to becoming a published author?
Most of my struggles that I faced had more to do with had to do with the life that was laid out in front of me. I spent the first 25 years of my life in complete isolation from society. The people that I was living with and the people that that were supposed to be taking care of me were highly abusive. My dad abused me during my childhood, physically, emotionally, psychologically. And then I went into slavery. I was a slave for about 6 or 7 years. And during that time, each day I was lucky to wake up. These were the struggles of my life that taught me a lot. And it took me almost 15 years after being released from slavery to come to understand that one major problem that I was seeing manifest itself around me, and a major problem that I was seeing manifest itself within me, was a struggle to identify who I am, what I stand for, and what I believe. And much of that struggle, I looked into the very book that I was writing for the answer.
Which real-life events inspired you to write The Struggle for Identity?
There were quite a few different experiences that I had that inspired me to write this book. One of them was the fact that coming up in a narcissistic home, as I've told many people, narcissism is the absence of identity. And coming up in that kind of environment, you have no idea who you are because the narcissist is too busy telling you that you are not who you think you are. You are who I tell you that you are. And this is how I'm going to control that. And it's always changing from one minute to the next because the narcissist itself doesn't know. The narcissist himself or herself does not know who they are. And when you grow up in that kind of environment, you will take that into your daily life, into the future. As an adult, I struggled with knowing who I am as Peter Wood. And when I coined the name the Black Wolf, I started to ask myself, who is Peter Wood? Who is the Black Wolf? And where do these two come together as one? And in writing this book, I sought to answer many of the questions that coming up fully isolated from society left me with.
What is the underlying message you would provide to the readers of The Struggle for Identity?
The past is a painful thing. I think that it is that very pain we have to be willing to confront. Confront it factually. Don't even look at what it did to you emotionally. Don't even look at the things that hurt you. And don't even look at how they affected you emotionally. Look only at the facts and then ask yourself, how does that fact affect who I am today? If you can do this, then you can speak death to the emotional effects of the past on your present. Until you do that, you have no future. Once you can do that, once you can look at yourself and go, in my case, I was a slave. How did that affect me? Well, I learned these skills. What can I do with these skills? I can do things with these skills. I can build with these skills. Rather than going, that son of a bitch hurt me. Instead of having that attitude and the need for revenge only holds you back. When we can look at ourselves, when we can look at our past and say, that created this, then we can cut off the emotional effects of the past on our present. Then we can speak life to the future. and set the parameters for the relationship we will have with the future, and only then can we move forward. We first must discover our identity in the past, declare our identity in the present, and then step into our identity for the future. This is what I hope people will gather from my book.
Are we facing an identity crisis in the digital age?
Absolutely. In this digital age, we are faced with a template of what is expected to be acceptable. And we take that template and we try to force it onto ourselves. But this is not who we are. In this digital age, we've become less connected with ourselves, less connected with our families, less connected with our society, and we've come to a point now where we don't even know who we are anymore because we don't see our idols that way. We see our idols a different way, and this is what we choose to become. Are we facing an identity crisis as a nation? Absolutely. Yes. Because we have taken this idea of what we consider to be acceptable, beautiful, attractive, and we've idolized it. But what we don't understand is that when the aggregate culture takes a standard of beauty and makes that its goal, then that standard of beauty becomes average at best. That standard of attractiveness becomes average at best, and then it becomes ugly.
The struggle for identity is a very crucial issue. What changes can we bring in the minds of the people towards this sensitive issue?
We have to come to a point, I think, where we are willing to accept the fact that we are just as capable of every horrible thing that we've experienced in our past. We're just as capable of creating the very suffering that we hate people for. If we become resentful of the things that we suffered in our past, then we will become cruel. And when we become cruel, then we can become the very reason that we're suffering.
The struggle for identity is an exploration into a new American revolution, a personal one. Are we still accepting ourselves? Are we still surviving with fear in our minds? What was the perception of the society in the 20th century as compared to now?
That's an interesting question. Very, very well thought out question. Fear keeps you focused on everything else that can go wrong and everything that did go wrong. When you're that focused on those things, then fear keeps you blinded to your identity. It keeps you focused on becoming somebody else, becoming more aggressive so that you don't have to get hurt again. Things like this. Fear wears many masks. Are we still dealing with fear in our minds? Absolutely. In fact, more now than ever before. We now live in a society that is so afraid of anything and everything that the news media tells us that only what the news media tells us can be true. And as a result, society is fracturing. It's falling apart. No one's allowed to get within 6 feet of each other. No one's allowed to get within 10 feet of each other. Every holiday, they're concerned about gatherings because they don't want people coming together. They don't want people talking. In the 20th century, it wasn't like this. 10 years ago, it wasn't like this. We are not accepting ourselves, no. We are still trying to become somebody else. I think it's more important for us to have a personal revolution. Each and every one of us, as individuals, come to an understanding of who we are, one at a time. Because changing the world has to begin with the individual. You can't change the world objectively without first changing your subjective opinion of how the world is.
Order your copy of The Struggle for Identity from the link in the description below. If you are new to this channel, subscribe now, like and share this video. Keep on watching The Blaze Goldberg Show.